As a reviewer, I'm likely not a sophisticated enough photographer to fully appreciate all the Sony DSC RX1R has to offer. What I do appreciate is a camera with a full-frame sensor, a high-quality lens, and easy-to-access exposure controls. None of these things are unusual, but they are unusual in a camera that's this small. During several weeks of shooting, it's helped me take some great landscape shots, portraits, close-ups of flowers in sunlight, food in dark restaurants, and just some generally arty shots. Then there are the effect photos that my friends and family find particularly fascinating. The RX1R successfully recalls the size and quality construction of post-war European rangefinder cameras. There's nothing flimsy here. From the lens cap to the solid metal tripod plate, it's a precision-engineered, sturdy, and solid camera that fully delivers on the functionality required by even the most demanding photographer. The RX1R's sensor delivers 24-megapixel images, 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. The JPEG files are 10 to 20 megabytes in size, the RAW are around 25. But more than the 24 megapixels, it's the sensor's size that delivers quality, detail, and capability. After 3 weeks of shooting, I'm really impressed by the results. At 36 by 24 millimeters, the RX1R sensor is 864 millimeters square. Sensors in point-and-shoot cameras rarely exceed 45 millimeters square, so this sensor is 20 times larger. That enables bigger pixels, which can capture more light in less time. Paired with the Zeiss non-interchangeable 35mm prime lens, the sensor delivers sharp and detailed images with a very shallow depth of field and a pleasing bokeh. Where this camera really excels is technology. As I navigated the menus and sampled the features, I started to truly appreciate the attention that had been paid to implementing and improving the basic functions to take photographs and the extension of those functions to provide greatly simplified access to features like panorama or HDR and other new capabilities. Mind you, it will take a while before you learn and incorporate these into your workflow. The RX1R is a sister camera to the RX1 introduced last year. The 1R lacks an optical low-pass filter, a distinction that will interest some purists. First, the controls. The lens barrel features an aperture ring to select f-stops from f22 to a wide-open f2. There are click detents at 1/3 stop intervals, which make it feel as if you're really changing the aperture. The aperture ring functions in manual and aperture priority modes, as well as the program shift mode. Other modes change the aperture automatically without physically moving the barrel. The thumb wheel on the back of the camera controls shutter speed, from 1/4000th to 30 seconds, as well as bulb. While all speeds are available at f22, the fastest speed is reduced at exposures under 5.6. Under f4, the fastest available shutter speed is 1/2000th. In video mode, the shutter speed is adjustable from 1/4 to 1/12,800. That can produce some interesting effects. I've frozen the motion in the middle so you can see the detail. At 1/25th, the slowest I could achieve without an ND filter, 1/60th, and 1/12,800. The default for the customizable C button beside the mode dial is ISO, which can be set from 50 to 25,600, as well as auto. In video mode, ISO can be set from 100 to 6400, although I'd rather see it expressed as gain. For program, shutter, and aperture priority modes, a dedicated EV adjustment dial ranges 3 stops in photo or 2 stops in video mode. Focus mode is selected with a switch beside the lens. The lens's outer ring is used for manual focus, and a small ring is used to select macro mode, a slight inconvenience when I forgot to set it back. HDR seems to signify images with exaggerated colors and edges. But the real purpose of high dynamic range is to extend the ability to capture detail in both bright highlights and dark shadows by combining multiple exposures. The RX1R has several advanced HDR features. There's the HDR painting mode with 3 settings, which get close to being exaggerated. Then the Dynamic Range Optimization menu has been extended to include an HDR mode that takes multiple images with exposures differing from 1 to 6 EV. A single shutter press now reveals detail that could not be captured without taking multiple exposures and manipulating them in post. Sony's implementation of panorama mode is the best I've encountered. But on the RX1R, some of my images ended up with bands of varying exposure, an effect I hadn't seen on other Sony models. I'm hoping that a firmware upgrade addresses that defect. Face detection includes smile mode. Select the degree of smile and the camera starts identifying faces and taking photos on its own. Although this works for most people, it does have trouble identifying my face. Must be the glasses. Auto portrait framing is new. It takes the picture you've composed and creates a second, improved portrait version. This works much better than I expected. Interestingly, both images are saved at the full 24 megapixel resolution. Portraits can also be enhanced with soft skin effect with 3 settings. Although many are gimmicky, I do enjoy the picture effect modes. Here's a quick trip through most of the options. Many of these are also available in video mode. And I'd be even happier if the camera simultaneously saved the original RAW capture as well as the affected JPEG, as some other cameras do. The red Movie button starts recording video, not in the currently selected still mode, but in the last selected video mode. Program, aperture priority, shutter priority, and full manual modes are available. Unlike the top-of-the-line Sony Alpha 99 DSLR camera, you don't need to forego manual focus to use manual exposure. There's a mic input, but no headphone jack, level control, or on-screen level display. The last two are minor shortcomings that could be addressed in a firmware upgrade. Sony has several optional mics that work with the RX1R's multi-interface shoe, like the ECM XYST1. Even though auto mode doesn't take full advantage of the RX1R's capabilities, it does demonstrate the quality of the sensor and lens combination and starts to reveal the processing power that's being applied. I was surprised by the number of photos it took at 1/80th, which I would consider a slow shutter speed, well before it moved either the aperture or the ISO out of standard range. The RX1R has a 35mm prime lens, which means the lens can't zoom, but I think you can tell from the sample images that I didn't find that to be too much of a limitation. The RX1R does have 2 zoom modes, neither of which work if you're saving RAW image files, and I'm assuming here that if you're shooting RAW you're going to crop the images in post, achieving much the same effect. If you do want to do it in camera, the Smart Teleconverter mode has 2 settings, 1.4 and 2. Activating zoom provides a range of up to 4 times for 24 megapixel images. Reduce the resolution to 4.6 megapixels and you can zoom up to 9.1 times across 3 quality ranges, which Sony labels as S, no deterioration, C, clear or minimal deterioration, and D, digital. On a 24 megapixel sensor, a 9 times digital zoom is effectively using 660 by 440 pixels, so the results won't be very impressive. The lens accepts 49mm filters, but I would have appreciated a built-in ND filter. Manual Focus Assist provides a 5.9 times magnification while you're adjusting the focus ring on the lens barrel. The RX1R has 2 menu systems, the main settings menu and the overlaid function menu for adjustments typically made while shooting, with submenus and options and features that are or aren't available with certain modes or settings. I'll admit it's slightly confusing and convoluted, but after 3 weeks I'm starting to feel at home and am able to find and change the settings I want easily. You can save up to 3 sets of settings in memory and recall them using the mode dial. When I used this feature, I couldn't escape the nagging doubt that I'd overlooked something when I'd configured the setting, so ended up making the adjustments on the fly. Although many less expensive Sony cameras, including the RX1R's little brother, the RX100, have articulated LCDs, that's a feature not provided here. And this is not a touchscreen. Using the sunny weather setting for the LCD makes it very viewable even in bright sunlight. I found the continual display changes in auto brightness mode to be a little distracting. An optical and a 24 megapixel electronic viewfinder are available as accessories. Although many recent Sony cameras have NFC, Wi-Fi, and even apps, none of those features are included here. I'm pleased that Sony cameras now include support for both Sony Memory Stick Pro and SD card formats, but I think that at least 8 gigs of internal memory should be included. In summary, I'd say that Sony's hardware and software expertise have combined to create a small, powerful camera that both professionals and well-heeled enthusiasts will enjoy.